Hi, good evening. Today is Monday, June 14th. ES was selling off in the morning today and had this great last 30 minutes run up where it almost made new all-time highs. SPX, I think, actually made new all-time highs, but ES is just a few points away, 2 points, I think, away from new all-time highs. And it looks like it's way above the volatility trigger that Andy has on his charts. And volatility, actually realized volatility has been rather low for the last 2 weeks. I think the realized volatility for the last 2 weeks has been the lowest in a year or even longer. So I'm certainly hoping that the volatility will pick up soon, and probably will, at least I hope so, because we have FOMC meeting on Wednesday. So that should spice things up. But interestingly, that VIX has closed up today. So maybe that will bring a little more volatility the day before the meeting tomorrow. So the vol trigger is what, at 41.84 right now or so?
Correct.
So
so we're way above that, or pretty nicely above that level. And so it suggests that we'll continue to grind a bit higher with, it looks like there may be some upside resistance here at the like 42.85 or 42.86 level. So we may run into a bit of, at least according to the options positions, it may run into a little bit of resistance or some, and have more chop up at that level. But between here and there, it appears it has room to grind higher.
right, with 42.10 level kind of being support in the last couple of days. So as long as that stays as support, we probably will keep grinding high as well. So everybody is waiting for FOMC, except for Nasdaq, of course. Nasdaq today has made new highs finally, and this was a little odd as the rates went up. Usually Nasdaq is kind of rate sensitive, but I guess the pool of the new all-time highs was so strong that Nasdaq didn't even care that the bonds sold off today, and we had a yellow day, second yellow day in a row.
That's right. So let's look at bonds here. So let's see, a bit of a sell-off today.
We'll have to see if it was a real breakout in bonds or it was a fake out. And Wednesday, I'm sure will provide some clues to that. And because they really want to fund the infrastructure, it's in Fed's interest to really keep interest rates low, not to alarm the investors and bond traders.
Right. And I think that we're seeing some of that, at least the thesis that the Fed's not going to do anything aggressive to threaten the current investment environment. And so we saw some pretty big moves in these momentum plays today. Like, well, Tesla's one, but I consider the premier ETF for this, the ARK Innovation Fund, which, let's look at a daily chart, but that one topped out in February, and it was in a pretty steep downtrend right up until early May, and has rallied pretty nicely since then. And today broke out above both the 200-day and 50-day moving average, and so it's pretty bullish for ARK. I mean, some people would say, well, time to maybe reduce some exposure here, but at the same time, I think for longer term traders over the next few days, it may be an opportunity to enter for a trade. Then some of the ARK's big holdings, like Coinbase, for example,
right?
A very nice move, almost 7%, along with crypto, of course. But then we can see some of their others, like say an Atomera, which is a semiconductor efficiency play or manufacturing efficiency play, Gilat Satellite, some of the other satellite stocks like Iridium, all of them moved really nicely today. And then, of course, Biotech, following with we had Biogen having some really positive news last week with the approval of their Alzheimer's drug, but it rebounded a little from the sell-off on Friday. But then a whole set of other biotech stocks are at least strong on a relative strength basis, or they're they're looking very similar to the ARK chart in terms of where they are and where they topped out, where they bottomed out, and where they currently are. And so I think over the next few days, if there's a little pullback, that'll be a good entry point because we've got the strength, we've got a breakout, and if it retests that breakout point, which is roughly the 200-day moving average, then we might go a little bit below that, but that might be a good buy if we stay with the Fed staying dovish and not really wanting to threaten the current economic environment and staying loose. It'll be very bullish for all these longer term. Maybe not that day. There might be a sell-off, like sell on the news kind of reaction, but it'll be bullish longer term for these trades, I think.
Right. And there was lots of rumors flying around and news flying around in crypto space as Elon Musk backpedaled on his threat of not taking Bitcoin as currency for his cars. But now he's back again saying that if Bitcoin is going to be more environmentally friendly, he will start accepting it again for Teslas. And so after that, of course, Bitcoin had a great move, which Andy thinks people attribute mostly to Musk, but there were other developments that are not maybe as widely noticed. For example, Paul Tudor Jones was also saying that he has 5%, if I'm not mistaken, 5% of his allocation to crypto space. And also MSTR has raised more money than they originally planned with their convertibles for to buy Bitcoin. Originally, it was supposed to be 400 million, but they were almost able to raise 500 million. So now that's another treasure chest to buy more Bitcoin. So
I think it's and right now I think that the crypto environment, it favors Bitcoin over other crypto right now. It's not to say that there can't be some minor coin that really outperforms everything, but just in terms of where there's liquidity and where you're likely to have good risk reward, I do think that at least in the very near term, like over the next week or two, at least, Bitcoin is going to be the strong performer. And it's just where we are in the cycle that you look at something like the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio. This is still at a very positive level compared to where it was earlier in the year, which was, it got as low as 0.03, and now it's at 0.6375, so 0.063. So it's not like it's in a bad position, but
right.
At the same time, it's off its high of about 0.082, which was a little bit extended, and so it's pulled back, but I see it going down a bit more, maybe to the 0.06 level over the next week or two. But then we'll likely see a rebound if I see Ethereum going up, and some of these others going up along with Bitcoin, but just not at the same pace. But the real test for Bitcoin, in my view, is this 42,000 level, which right now it just so happens to be where the 200-day moving average is, which is, that's where things really broke down. But there was a breakdown right at 42,000. But then the ultimate, maybe that is really back in bullish territory would be get back above this what was a support line. But I think that it could be a few months. If it gets back above the 42,000 level, it's still several months maybe in this space here where it's consolidating, and that is a very healthy thing if that happens. But with Ethereum, I think it's kind of a similar story that we've got the it's back above this support. It briefly dipped below that, and there's this is more of a just a line that I've drawn to about like just a short term, maybe where I'd put some stop losses to enter longer long positions, but this is the real next test for Ethereum. That's similar to a 42,000 level. It's about 2,900 on Ethereum, and so I see those as being the real near-term tests if it can get to that level. But there's it could bounce around a lot before at right below this 42,000 level. I think that's the hurdle that has to be crossed to get this market back to a more I'd say neutral position. We really got to a place where it was not quite oversold, but definitely neutral, and the overbought condition had been worked off pretty well over the last few weeks. So it's a much more bullish setup than it's been for since really April, and so I think this could continue, but it'll probably run into a little bit of static here for a few days at least.
Right, and if Coinbase is any indicator, it had a very nice day. Do you think this could be the bottom for Coinbase, at least temporarily?
I think so. Now, one of the things that, and this is just a little bit of trader's intuition, but then also my observation is that there are a lot of double bottoms in crypto. Unlike what it's very often the case that there's a like these, like as they say in like the stock market, that bottoming is an event, but the topping is a process. And I think that in crypto, it's a little bit, the topping's a process, but bottoming's a process too. That it's very seldom to see these like V bottoms in crypto, and I think that we're seeing that. We've seen the double bottom in Coinbase and a strong move back above this, which it's following Bitcoin, of course, it's following crypto, but being able to clear above, especially this like 247 level, will be really bullish. But I do think it could get back above. I mean, without just getting to a more, I think a rough level for a target that I would have if it clears this 245, 247 level would be around 300. And I think that's could be a nice trade over the next several weeks if it can clear that level.
And
I wouldn't
go ahead.
I wouldn't be surprised actually to see the Bitcoin, if it's able to punch above 42,000 level, that happens simultaneously with Coinbase
Right.
breaking above that level. It's just, it seems that these things often happen in sync when you look across assets. So.
And do you think Coinbase has the strength to compete with Bitfinance, or how do they compare?
Well, I think that like Binance, for example, they they have a Binance US, and then they have their main exchange, which allows a lot more like margin trading options and so on, perpetual futures. All these things aren't available to US customers, and there may be margin trading, but it's at a much lower like leverage on the US side, and fewer things are offered. There's some things that are considered that, like the SEC has hinted, they would consider securities that Binance offers on our main site, but not the US site for that reason. I think that, Coinbase has a lot of competition, but where they've got a very strong brand, one, and they've also got a lot of business that's outside of just transactions, like exchange transactions. So they've got a big venture arm, and then they also have what's called Coinbase Prime, which is their institutional division. And so what they've just set up, which I think is a huge opportunity for Coinbase, which Binance doesn't have yet, is with their Coinbase Prime service, which like a hedge fund or some other like family office or some other institutional fund would use. They are going to be offering DeFi services that are still custodial. So they have the necessary custodial element to them, but they will allow an institution to use these different DeFi platforms like a Yearn or Uniswap or whatever. And so what the limitation has been so far is that these institutions, they've been able to buy the coins like a Yearn coin or Uniswap coin, but not actually use the platforms and get some of the higher interest rates or rates of return and so on from these platforms. But they'll be able to. So that'll have some effects, like it will drive down the rates of return that people are getting on these platforms. It has to. But on the other hand, it'll open up a lot of business for Coinbase. I think it's inevitable that these rates of return and so on go down. And as institutions get involved, it's just who's going to be the one that opens the door for them. And I think that Coinbase is a major player in that. And so that's, I think that's the ace up their sleeve, that they've got better connections in the traditional finance space than any of the other. Well, maybe Gemini comes close on that, which is the Winklevoss twins site, and it's a very legitimate competitor to Coinbase. But I'd say that Coinbase still has the strongest connections to traditional finance and to venture capital and all these funds that want to play in crypto, but maintain a foot in traditional finance too. So, but I think Coinbase could be a good trade coming up. I'd like to see a little bit more move up and see if, especially if Bitcoin continues its rally and can start to challenge this 42,000 level, which it's just a few percent under that level now. Then that that could be it could make Coinbase a really nice long trade in the shorter term.
Well, I think that's it for me for today. And did you have anything?
No, that's it. I'd say that I do think that there's some good opportunities right now. It depends on how much risk you want to take, and I do think that it may be a little bit of, for a short-term trader, it may not be the place to enter, say a Bitcoin trade right now, and it might be good to buy if it tries to challenge this 42,000 level and pulls back a little bit. That might be a good place to buy, but it could punch right through. If it does that, then that's a different kind of trade with a different risk reward setup. But that's just a thought that it might run into a little bit of resistance here, and that pullback will be the one to buy.
Well, thank you very much. We'll see you all Wednesday.